It's Sunday night, and that now means it's time for Call Live. I'm back again, your host, The Belford, and this evening I have my wonderful, wonderful co-host, the amazing, the talented, the fantastic, back again on Call Live. It feels like it's been so long, forever, Kelsey.
Hi. Yeah, it's been a bit. I've been on a little bit of a hiatus lately, trying to catch up on my life and start a new role at work, and it's been a nightmare, but I had to be here for this one. So I am here. I am excited to talk some Schmoedown with all of you tonight.
Yeah, I love when the stars align and you get to be on like the best show ever. And tonight might be the best show ever because we have so much to break down, so much to talk about from the past week of the Schmoedown, particularly the amazing pay-per-view and that match. I mean, it's that match. That's how you can when a match is so good that you can just say that match and people immediately are like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. And one of the stars of that match is joining us tonight. Some might say the star of that match. He is a soap mogul and a Schmoedown champion once again. Spoilers, by the way, everybody, for tonight. We are spoiling the pay-per-view and every maybe the rest of the week as well. But once again, we are joined by friend of the show, always welcome, Bibbs, Mr. William Bibbiani. Welcome back,
Hi,
sir.
everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm flattered that you would think of me as one of the stars, but that was the other team. That was the other team of that match. So
True. You murked them though. You did. You definitely
sure. I murked. I think I quirked more than anything else. Yeah.
Oh, what an amazing match! It's been the season of amazing matches. It feels like, and every week we get something new and exciting, and a new faces, new accomplishments, and the other night was amazing. I mean, it was I'm using terrible superlatives that are like awful, but I don't know how else to describe it. It was just awe-inspiring.
I'm just happy you're happy. I mean, that's what we do. We're going out there to entertain people. And if you brought me on your show, just like Bibbs, just want to let you know that Friday sucked. Like, what a piece of crap that was. What did you do? Like, God, I can smell it all the way over here, wherever I am.
Bibbs, we had you on, not Ben Bateman. That's how we. No.
Oh,
so sorry.
That's harsh. That's harsh. Are we still doing that? Are we still doing the trader thing? Is that what's going on? Is that going to follow forever? Okay.
I mean, Paul Denuzzo, that terrible person, is welcomed him back with open arms as soon as he possibly could. But some of us stay true to our convictions. But as I said, the match was fantastic. For those of you who don't know, for the first time ever, which is always a good thing. Well, not necessarily always a good thing, but in this case, a very great thing. We had the perfect match. Like you and your amazing partner, the kid. You did it. You didn't miss a single question.
It was crazy. It's never been done before in teams. It's been done in single. I've done it in singles, but and actually, like quite a few people have done it in singles now. That's cool. But there's so many X factors involved in teams in terms of like you're answering twice as many questions in round one. Technically, you're answering the same ones, but you know what I mean. There's that many more opportunities just to mess up, and especially in the speed round, the way it is now in the digital era, when there are 10 questions that can easily not go your way. We were the first ones to get it 100%, and we were the first ones to get it 100%, possible points earned.
Right.
Which means that we ended up without steals, which they're an incredible team. They pushed us to the limit. We ended up getting 53 points, and that's the sort of thing you don't want to mention until after the game is over, because we were doing real well, and we got double dewberries in the first round. That's solid. It's where we wanted to be. And then the second round, we managed to pull it out from Mel Brooks, where we wanted to be, and then we got a category we really liked in the betting round, and we felt comfortable betting 3. We did it, but it wasn't until the speed round that it even really occurred to me that we might go perfect, because so much can go wrong in the speed round. We might miss a question. We might have to pass a couple of questions. A million things can happen. And then after that, I was like, and then they went perfect as well. And we realized we're probably all going to have to answer our 5s, that we were like, this is possible. Like, this could happen. I mean, we have to get everything right. Like, we need to at that point. Like, we couldn't just say, let's not get the 5. Who cares? Like, no, we really needed to get everything in order to stay in the game. We played technically the perfect game, and they still almost won.
Yeah.
Like, that's how good that team was. And so, yeah, it was incredible. We were very, very thrilled to have done it, and it feels good. It feels good to be it feels good to be the first of something. That's always a thrill when you're the first people to do something.
For sure. I mean, it's like like you said, not to talk about it, it's like in baseball when a pitcher's throwing a perfect game, and by like the 6th inning, no one is talking to him anymore, like because they don't want to jinx it.
I saw For Love of the Game too. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Good movie.
Also, in baseball, in a perfect game, there's always like 2 or 3 moments where it could be ruined, and you guys kind of had those like couple of moments. There was the question in the Mel Brooks where it was one of 2 actors that you went with your gut. It was who was the sidekick that pitched the movie, I believe, in Silent Movie.
Well, it was the name more than anything else, and it was between Marty Feldman and Dom DeLuise, and the character's name was Marty. And I thought to myself, Mel Brooks isn't that clever. So I figured and it was one of them. I just couldn't remember which one their name was. So I was pretty confident. Someone else pointed out in the comments section on YouTube, and it was cleverly so. And I think I had internalized this without actually articulating it out loud, that Dom DeLuise had already been the answer to a question, and the odds of him being an answer to a question twice in one game, pretty astronomical. I imagine they would try to avoid that. I mean, theoretically it could happen, but generally speaking, you don't want to do that. So, yeah, that's. I felt comfortable going with my gut on that one, and I figured they would never get it. Like, I suppose they might have, but it's not a well-known Mel Brooks movie, so I thought it was worth the risk.
And also, when you guys were discussing that question, Christian was counting down, and it was at 1, I think, when the kid was like, "Repeat the question." So that would have been a terrible way to ruin a perfect game, like on a question you knew the answer to, but just
the kid actually, he was on a show this weekend, and he made a really, really good point about that, which is there are times when you're playing in a team where you're in the second round or in the final question. It's a collaborative round, and it's more one person's category than the other, or one person thinks they know it and the other one just doesn't or hasn't seen that movie. And this is a case where I think he had seen that movie, but I just had seen it more recently. But we've all been in that situation. And when that happens, it is not your partner's responsibility, I think, to just sit back and let you answer the question. The kid, one thing the kid is best at is helping me pull answers out. And that's something that works really, really wonderfully. Like, we're very, very comfortable, sharing ideas, trying to like get on each other's wavelength. What's this movie I'm thinking of? And then we can just, within a couple of words, we can usually figure out, if we can't figure out the title, we at least know who's in it. And then we extrapolate from there. Or maybe we know one name, but not their last name. And you can usually sound it out. So that's one of the best things about working with the kid, is he's such a good collaborator. And so in that thing where I'm like, I know it's on top of my head, I'm not sure if we're confident about it. I'm in the middle of being in my head. I'm trying to remember every single thing about Silent Movie. And he is taking it upon himself to take the leadership position at that moment and say, no, we need a repeat. Bibbs is working on it. And I've done that for him as well. It's great. It feels so natural. And there's a lot of other great players in the Schmoedown, no doubt about it, but I think I found the right partner, that's for sure.
I mean, it's worked out. It's got championship titles, so it's good. I think it's good for the fans that we get to see now the kind of like the collaboration between teammates because of the digital era. And we even saw it in your match in the betting round. Jeannine knew the answer, or she knew who the person was, but couldn't think of the name.
Yep.
And she says single white female, and then Jeff got the name, and then so
that was great teamwork. That was great teamwork. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
I was just saying. I remember when the digital season started, and there was a moment there where we weren't sure if team were going to be possible. And one of the things that like some people were kind of iffy about was there wasn't really a way for team members to talk to each other privately. Which initially was just a concern about, like, okay, how do we make sure that the other team can't hear the possible answers that we're coming up with? Right. And so that's what led to us having to leave the digital room and that kind of thing. But the other simple factor is, are we losing the mystique? You know, like, if people can hear all of the wrong things we say before we get to the right answer, are we potentially making ourselves look bad? Or are people just going to see how easy it is sometime, and it's just going to be like Jeff and Jason Lane, and it's not going to, like, seem as exciting because, oh God, have they got it yet? Yeah. And I think it works both ways. Honestly, I do think that there's a lot of things that have gone well, and sometimes surprisingly well, in the digital era. And I actually think that getting to hear how other teams collaborate with one another has been really, really exciting. And I love it personally. Whether it works out well or whether it works out badly, sometimes there's that moment where, like, they've got the right answer, but then they say the wrong one, and you're like, no, you were so close, and it adds to the suspense. So I dig it personally.
It does add to the suspense. Speaking of adding to the suspense, we did have a suspenseful moment this week of who was going to be Jeff Snyder's partner, and we found out it was the one, the only, the great Jeannine the Machine, and we are bringing her on right now. Yay!
Hello. Hi.
Hello. Welcome.
It's been so long, Jeannine.
I know.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. It's been a good 2 weeks of nice compliments, and I'm not complaining.
That is what we're here for.
It's really interesting and I bet Marisol probably feels the same way. I haven't talked to her or anything, but it's really interesting to win a match and not be the story of the match. And it's like, yeah, okay.
I mean, I didn't mean to do that.
Oh, sure you did. But like Bibbs and Brendan, they had the perfect game. Yeah, it's fine. Who cares? Jeannine is amazing, and I'm like, yeah, she is.
I mean, I will say this. You guys did have a perfect game, but in the second round, you worked together, so it was two heads working together. Jeannine's partner literally was like this the whole time. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Yeah, sure.
He literally told me, like, when it was like, okay, time to choose your will slices, he's like, Jeannine, put your 2 will slices on there. I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yes, I trust you. Just go for it. I'm like, okay.
It was such a smart play. It really, really was. Because that's the thing that, like, really... Like, because, again, we saw it dramatized, but it really did happen about that fast.
Yeah.
We had been studying to play Jeff and Mark for about a month and a half, give or take. And then all of a sudden, we're playing Jeff and Jeannine with only a few days to go. And Jeannine, you've got some of Mark's strengths, but you're a very different player. And, like, we realized that, like, okay, all of a sudden, stuff that we didn't think they would ever put on the wheel is really likely to be on the wheel now, and we had to completely change up our entire strategy. And boy, did that make it exciting! And you really brought it. I have to ask you. Have you been? Are you just a Capra fan, or have you been studying that, like, really hardcore? Because you've gotten that twice in a row, and you've nailed it both times.
Well, I mean, I do host a podcast called "It's a Wonderful Podcast," so right. I mean. I was familiar with him and, became a fan of his movies from doing that podcast and talking a lot of classic films. So, yeah, it definitely was something that was easy for me to really know a lot about.
Yeah, well, you're doing great.
Thank you.
So it was really interesting to me because Jeff has another famous match against you, sir, Mr. William Bibbiani, where he got classics in round 2 and put as much effort in that match in round 2 as he did in this match as well.
Technically, that was 70s, but basically any movie before 1980 seemed like it wasn't, like, his wheelhouse. Yeah. But Jeannine just completely fills that gap. So.
Well, yeah, he told me, if we land on Capra, like, I can't help you. So it's going to be all you. And, like, normally I would be super intimidated by that and scared that somebody's, like, relying on me so hard, especially in a big match like this. But the fact that someone like him trusted me, that just gave me the confidence to be like, okay, let's go for it. I think I can do this.
Where was your? I'm sorry. I'm so fascinated by this because I rarely get an opportunity to talk to the people like after I played them.
Feel free.
Like, it's been a long time, especially since we no longer get to hang out like at matches and stuff. So I have to ask you, Jeannine, like, what else was like? again, because you came on this really, really fast. What else was like that study week like? Like, what were your focuses, if you don't mind telling us?
Well, I don't want to get too much into it, but yeah, definitely. With the short amount of time I had, I went back and watched a couple of your guys' matches, and so we kind of had a pretty good idea of what you were going to put on there, or what your kind of main focus is. I knew the kid really loves classics as well, so that was definitely something that I was really brushing up on too, to make sure, you know, I could get those. But yeah, definitely, I think pretty much the same thing you guys did, just kind of looking at your opponent and doing the research. So
nice. I'll let you guys ask questions.
Well, another ironic thing I think we got was that the Otter couple, 5-point question is musicals, and I love Jeff Snyder.
Yeah, he's like, where's that Draco?
But you pulled it. I mean, you got it.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little concerned, like just going back to the first blackjack match where we were given musicals in opponent's choice and we kind of fought through that. I was like, oh gosh, they're haunting me. But the question being in one of my actual favorite musicals, as soon as I heard In the Sound of Music, I was like, okay, I feel better now. I think I can get this. That was definitely helpful. So.
Yeah, I mean, musicals is definitely one of those categories where it's like
kind of all over the place.
That is technically a musical when they ask a question about some movie that you're like, oh yeah, that is a musical. Oh,
sometimes the definition of musical can be a little nebulous. Is that a musical, or is that just a movie with a lot of music in it?
Yeah,
is there even a meaningful difference? Because musicals didn't really used to mean like a whole bunch of original songs used to tell a narrative until like Oklahoma was coming out. So, like, for the big chunk of film history, it was jukebox musicals. Singing in the Rain is a jukebox musical. There's only like 2 numbers in that are original, and Singing in the Rain isn't one of them. That song was like over 20 years old.
Right.
So there's so much that like you don't even know if you're supposed to study, and there's so long a history. Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, so I was surprised to get like a really deep plot-based question, because I feel like a lot of the fives lately have been just like harder forms of who plays this in this movie, and like somebody that's maybe not super top billed or a familiar name, and that's kind of what happens with the fives. So when we got something that was really plot based, I was really surprised.
Yeah, it is, however, The Sound of Music. Like, it's like still one of the most popular movies like ever made. So I think so
you kind of got to go more plot based as opposed to cast, since it's so popular in that end.
Yeah, if it had been like a super plot specific detail of Xanadu, I think you probably would have been like,
yeah,
dude.
We did get writer. Hey guys, Bibbs, congrats, and Machine on the Snyder do. Hope you keep Otter Couple. Great name. That was a rough 5-pointer. Nice pull. So more compliments for Jeannine.
Thank you.
Well deserved.
Are you still talking about what you're going to do with staying together or going back to blackjack? Is that still a part of the conversation?
Yeah, it's definitely something we're still talking about as a faction. What's best for us? We still have an open slot to fill, so that's on the docket to figure out as well. So I think depending on who we can get, I think that's going to determine a lot of what we do. Because I mean, I loved playing with Jacoby, and the way we were able to scrap and fight back from a 10-point deficit to tie it up, like I'm so proud of that. And I love playing this game with him. He definitely kept me positive and upbeat. Like, we were smiling going into a 10-point deficit. And I don't think I could really do that with anybody else. So I absolutely love playing with Jacoby. But me and Jeff surprisingly worked really well together. Like, that shocked me, just like it shocked everyone else. So, I mean, the way we were able to work together on that 3-pointer or the round 3 betting round question, and him just putting that trust in me, like, we worked really well together. So definitely, I mean, it could go either way, but it's something we have to talk about as a faction. So
makes total sense.
I think you're good either way. I mean, you are doing amazing regardless.
These are the problems you want.
Yeah.
Do I want to have this potentially championship level team or this potentially championship level team? I'm so popular and talented.
It's so hard. It's so hard.
Bibbs, I did want to ask you about your 5-point question, because that was a tough question. Do you think Deepwater Horizon.
Hold on, we lost you for a second. You want to try that again?
Oh, okay.
We didn't hear the question.
So, your 5-point question. It was a tough question. Do you think you would have gotten there on your own without the kid? Because you went Deepwater Horizon first.
Here's the thing with Deepwater Horizon. I didn't sound right. It was just the first thing that came to mind. Mm-hmm. So would I have pulled The Finest Hours? Possibly. I have seen that movie. I saw that in theaters. I reviewed it. But I couldn't remember if Casey Affleck was in that, and it didn't seem quite right to me. It was just the first thing that came into my brain. And I think I would have definitely, if I needed to, burn through all of my JTEs, even if I ended up going with Deepwater Horizon, just because it sometimes, like, your first thought is exactly right, and you trust your gut. But it's always trust but verify. You know, like, you never just take your gut for granted on it, unless you just really, really obvious, you know, like, hey, what's Mel Gibson's name? Mel Gibson?
Yeah, Mel Gibson. I always did want to ask you, like, when did you stop just relying on your general movie knowledge and actually start, like, studying?
Well, that's the thing. It's interesting because I've never stopped studying. I've been studying, like, movie trivia since, like, I was like 10. So this actually kind of just felt like I just sort of fell into the right, like, line right here where, like, oh, this is what I've been doing. Like, I remember when I was a kid, IMDb came out for the first time, and I thought to myself, oh, I better memorize this before the site gets taken down. And then, and now here we are. But so I really, I've always studied really, really hard. What happened was in the last couple of years, I think, it's not so much studying per se, so much as it is refreshing strategically.
Okay.
Where, like, so the kid and I were, like, studying, like, we know that, like, okay, so we're playing up against this team. This is their strength. I routinely watch these movies anyway, but there's, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head. Like, let's say we were playing someone who's, like, whose category was, like, Meg Ryan. All right. And I'd be like, God, I haven't seen Addicted to Love since it came out. Okay, I'll rewatch Addicted to Love, like that kind of thing. Okay. But it's typically not, like, super hardcore studying so much as it is trying to make sure these facts are fresh in my brain.
Okay.
More than anything else. But again, we're trying to focus on the right facts because it's like I've been paying attention in class all year, but the test is tomorrow, so I'm going to cram a little.
Yeah, and it's so hard to study for teams or singles because it's anything and everything. So, you know, I just kind of try to watch one movie, like, every day that I haven't seen before, and then and then hone in on, like, whatever I want to hone in on.
You never know what's going to come up. And I've had people say to me, just like, oh, it's so weird that, like, Bibbs has all of Bibbs has all of these podcasts that, like, don't study things that show up on the Schmoedown. And then they do, and they're the questions that people think are really hard. Mm-hmm. So you never know what's going to come up. Almost the entirety of film history is available. So what I always try to do is I always try to stay curious. I have a particular study method that I do that it takes up a lot of time, but I'm kind of obsessive compulsive, so it works for me. Yeah. I'm constantly thinking about movies, either for work or just because that's my frame of reference for, like, reality. And so whenever I think of a movie, I ask myself 3 things about it. Okay. So, like, if I just thought in my head, like, I just put a sock on my left foot. Who was in my left foot? I kind of do. Did someone else win an Oscar for that? Was it Brenda Fricker or Brenda Blethyn? Brenda Fricker won an Oscar for that movie. That kind of thing. Yeah. So, like, I'm just constantly testing myself, and if I don't know it, I look it up, and then it's back in there again, and it's refreshed. So, but there's a lot of different ways to study for the Schmoedown. I personally am not a big fan of the skim the IMDb and Wikipedia page. I mean, sometimes it's efficient. And, like, but
I do like to watch the movie, particularly if it's something I haven't seen before.
I think it's important. I think for me, it's much easier for me to pull a memory of a story that I had emotional investment in than it is a couple of words on a web page that I saw. Yeah,
but even as a movie fan, it's great to discover movies you haven't seen before. Like, I literally watched Dolores Claiborne, like, a couple of days before that.
Awesome!
So that's why, like, I knew who it was, but, like, I was blanking. She's got the 3 names. What's her name again? She's a single white female. So, yeah, like, definitely.
And again, in my line of work, I'm fortunate enough that I get to, I mean, I'm not making like a lot of money, or sometimes any. But like in my line of work, I watch movies, and one of the things that I always try to do is I try to like worry about context. So when we review a movie that's part of a franchise, I try to revisit the whole franchise, and I try to make sure that I'm constantly up to date on everything. So that's a big part of what I do, is trying to make sure I understand like all the movies that surround a topic and not just focus on like the one film that I like, you know?
Yeah. Because it's definitely a web that branches out. I see Cam calling out Ben Bateman. I mean, I wasn't going to say anything, but
I think Ben has a lot of different study methods. I think we all know he watches movies, but he's got his own way of doing things, doesn't he? And I think it mostly works for him. I think we've seen times where it didn't, because he didn't know the context to pull something a little bit more deep. Yeah. But that can happen to literally everybody. Every once in a while, you're going to get a question about a movie you haven't seen.
Yeah.
And you're just trying to like, I saw a poster for that, or I think I remember a trailer. Did that win an award? Something. And you're just doing your best. And we're all like catching up. Like every single one of us. I don't care. Like Leonard Maltin's played the Schmoedown. He hasn't seen every movie either. Yeah. We're all catching up. We're all like, you never know what it's going to be. Something.
And even it's something you know, and you just can't recall it in that moment. So that happens too.
Exactly.
I also think people look at movies differently, and that affects maybe the way they study. And it's interesting because in the match we saw kind of the two perspectives of how maybe you guys study Bibbs and the Kid. There was the question about who plays the Colonel in one of the movies, and you knew the actor's name in the movie, and the Kid said, well, he was nominated for an Oscar for that movie. So it was like the two different perspectives like came together to get the answer right, which was really interesting to see.
Yeah, there's like two different characters in that movie who are played. There's two different characters in that movie who play Nazis, who are played by significant characters. One was played by Charles Durning, and the other was played by Christopher Lloyd. And I was going at it from, okay, I think Charles Durning was in charge of Christopher Lloyd, so Colonel is about as high as you can get in the military, so it's probably Charles Durning. And then he remembered Charles Durning was nominated for an Oscar, and I'm like, yeah, and Christopher Lloyd never has. So, boom. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I do want to get into another thing that we saw kind of between the two matches in the pay-per-view, because famously, not famously, but in the first match, Danger Zone burned through all their JTEs in round one. They were literally like 5 questions in, they were out of JTEs. But it didn't really affect the end of the match because they got all the questions right after that. So what are you guys'
thoughts? You have to be confident. I think you definitely have to be confident to do something like that. Because I know for me, I'm always someone who's like scared, like, I need to save all of them to the end. I might need them. But even in training with the stars, like we kind of talk about that. Like, don't be afraid to burn one early if you really think you can get there. Because there's no point in saving them till the end. So yeah, it's definitely something that we talked about. But I think, definitely, like, I think how most people play, you have to have a lot of confidence to just do that so early on.
Yeah, they put themselves in a tough position there. My philosophy when it comes to the Schmoedown is worry about the points that are right in front of you. And if you need a few more seconds and you know you're going to get that answer, use it. Yeah. If you know you're not going to get the answer, it's a waste. Don't bother. Just move on and try to make it up for it later. So, but I also think it's important to remember that the first round is, I think, the most important round. In teams matches, because the first round can potentially be worth 18 points.
Yeah.
There's no other round that's worth that much unless you go into like a ridiculous number of sudden deaths. Like it's just impossible. So if that's when you need to use the points, because that's really, really important, it makes a lot of sense. And we've seen it backfire. The last time Ben was on a team that burned through all their JTEs in round one, it was when Who's the Boss played Shazam. And then they ended up getting a category that was tough for them. And then they didn't have any time to really talk it out and work through a category that they weren't super comfortable with. And it just didn't work for them that day. So it says a lot about how confident Ben and Dan are in their partner, that they didn't see anything on that wheel where they thought we need to keep at least one of these in our pocket. That says a lot about that team. It says a lot about that team. And it's also Ben is really big on the idea of sort of a supra narrative The idea of it's not just the match, it's the story around the match that you're watching. And he built up this whole thing about how what it's going to boil down to is if Mike doesn't get the points in round one, they're going to lose. So it was probably a little extra important. I don't know how true this is, but I wonder if in the back of his mind, it was probably a little extra important that they try to get as many points in round one as possible so that he can keep that narrative going, as opposed to, which is what happened at the end of round one. He can't use that mind game anymore. They're on top. So that's dead now.
And I think people do play for things like that. Like, I feel like Mike, a lot of the time, he plays for like what he thinks the fans are going to say about him. So that's kind of what plays into a lot of his decision making in match. And so that would make sense to me that Ben, someone who's like, her persona is so huge, he would play into things that are going to play into his character and like the narratives that he creates for himself as well.
And often that plays like that plays really heel most of the time. And that's something that I'm not comfortable with personally. I've never found myself. I tried it initially and I wasn't good at it and I gave up on it.
I've been there.
That
was the when I started too.
Yeah, it wasn't me, and I think you're stronger without it as well. And it's a distraction I don't need. Yeah. But what I appreciate about someone like Ben in particular, and Mike as well, and a few like Roka and a few other people who are really, really committed to that. Not that Roka's always a heel, but he has been. When you set yourself up for that, when you say, "Oh, Mike's going down. He's definitely getting fewer points than us in round one." Mm-hmm. You have to be either like just like dangerously cocky, or you have to be an extremely giving performer. And I actually think it's the latter. I think you have to understand that as setting yourself up as a heel, someone who is, laying down the smack talk and sounding like you're being kind of cocky and a jerk about it. And if it goes wrong, it's going to really go wrong for you. Yeah. And you need to be comfortable with that possibility.
And the compartmentalization of that, of having to play the game and also keep up this character. I think we've seen some people flounder trying to do both.
Yeah. No, I have a lot of respect for that. It's not the way I do it. It's not my favorite thing, but I have a lot of respect for it.
Yeah.
We've seen heels that like maybe didn't trivia as much, they just into playing the character. Mm-hmm. And then we've seen people who only care about the trivia and they're just heels because somebody said they were heels. It's very rare we see
we lost him again.
Good at trivia and a heel. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's hard to do both. It's really, really hard to do both. Because here's the thing, and I think this is true for every field where someone's playing a quote unquote bad guy. 99 times out of 100, they're played by the nicest people. So the bad guy act is an act, and you need to actually concentrate on it. And it takes time and it takes effort, and you are not doing what you would naturally do in a conversation with somebody. And this isn't scripted even. This is all live, and so you need to be able to pull a retort or an insult or something like just out of your butt. And
that was really difficult for me to do. When
it's a lot. It's so much concentration that you could be using thinking of trivia.
Yeah. So one of my favorite things is people who talk about the first time they saw Andrew Guy like in the Schmoedown, and they hated him because they thought he was just and then they meet him and they find out he's like the nicest person, and it's like, no problem. But Jeannine, though, you made your championship debut. That was I think that's the added kind of like storyline, the underlying storyline. This was your first championship match, and to perform the way that you did was in a situation where I felt like it's funny because it's a situation where I felt like Jeff could have been like, all right, I'm in charge. I'll just do everything. You're my teammate. But then, like you said, he was like, no, put your wheel slices on, do the wheel, which I think honestly helped Jeff too, because sometimes Jeff gets in his own head. He gets stressed out.
Yeah.
And the fact that he could kind of take round 2 off, I think helped him. And that's helped you guys to finish really strongly.
Definitely. I think there are moments where he kind of gets down and Roxy kind of has to give him that pep talk to, get him back into that focus mode. So yeah, I think maybe that was his strategy. I don't know. Like, I feel like it was him just trusting me, but also I feel like, yeah, it was definitely a little bit of him maybe taking the weight off him so he could, be ready for the bigger rounds that he knew I was a little bit intimidated of. Cause like, I was so scared of the speed round. I was like, I've never done a speed round before. I don't know how this is going to go. I'm scared I'm going to miss something or, pass on too many things and not get it right. But definitely, I think him kind of putting that trust in me for other rounds, and then him kind of being able to focus on the later rounds that he was more experienced in definitely was a huge help for us. So
yeah, I mean, it's a high pressure situation, and people we've seen people crumble in those situations. Very rarely do people in their first championship match do really well. Even people who win tournaments and then get a championship match, and you'd say a good example was Andres last year, did amazing in the Star Wars tournament and was doing it, and then kind of got on the bigger stage and didn't perform the way he had been.
Yeah, and that's what I was super scared of.
Here's the thing, though, and I think this is why I was more concerned about. There was a solid day the other week when I thought we were going to lose to Jeannine. I was like, we knew it was Jeannine, and I'm like, oh my god, they're going to kill us. We are dead. How do we let this happen? I swear to God, that's totally true, and my teammates will back me up on that. But here's the reason why, and I think it's actually I think it speaks to the Andres thing, because that's a great player. He had this incredibly great tournament run, and then he was off the mat for months.
Yeah.
I don't actually believe in momentum. I think momentum is just what happens before someone stops you. But I do believe that there is something to be said for being in the competitive mindset. Yeah. And so if you're out of the competitive mindset, I think it is dangerous, and I think it is on your manager, your partner, whoever you're working with, to try to keep you sharp. I don't know if that's what happened with Andres, but if I were to hesitate a guess, that might be it. And we knew that Jeannine had already been working with Marisol and already been having a good season, and then she kicked ass in that Marisol match, and we're like, yeah, she's primed. We're in trouble here. We didn't pick someone Jeff didn't end up with a partner that was green or something. Jeff ended up with an expert player who's been forged in hot forging materials. I don't know anything about masonry. Even masonry, whatever it is. I don't know anything about making swords. But if there was a sword maker here, he would tell you how Jeannine came to be. Yeah,
true. I mean, the last time we had a championship match where with a mystery partner was when Brienne won the free for all, and then the title, and it was someone who'd never been in the Schmoedown before.
Yeah,
Jeff Snyder gets Jeannine the Machine. So,
just our luck, man.
And I mean, they just had mentioned it's a possibility. This may not happen, but we'll see. Mark is saying he maybe can, play. So we're just putting it out there to see if you can do it if we need you. So it was kind of could this really happen? I don't know. So it was still kind of in the back of my head. And then when it was actually going to happen, there was a lot going into it for me to prepare and just really be ready for this. And I was super nervous. And the stars were amazing. Jacoby wrote 60 to 80 questions for us to study speed round format, because I was so nervous about it. And I think it was also really great practice for Jeff as well, because I think that's probably his weakest round, or the round that he doesn't like the most in a championship match. And so something that he probably wouldn't have studied for, because we were all in the study session together, he was able to study for speed round. So I think that was definitely a huge benefit to us there. But yeah, definitely, I was just so nervous going into this match with just new rounds that I was not familiar with. And I'm just really happy that we were able to work all of that out and work so well together. So, yeah.
Jeannine, I got to ask you, when you were feeling the stress of going to this really last minute championship match, was it any consolation to know that whether you won or whether you lost, you were going to get some soap?
Yeah, that was the main focus. You know, I was feeling really good about.
Okay.
I was feeling really good. You know, if we lose this match, at least we put up a fight, and I'm probably gonna get some Salt Cat soap.
Oh, you're gonna get some Salt Cat soap. We got some amazing stuff coming for Salt Cat soap. We have some Father's Day gift sets that are currently 10% off, and they're only 10% off through May 31st. They're Monty Python themed. This is a shrubbery massage bar. Smells of delicious earthy things. We also have several soaps that smell of elderberries in that set. And then I'm actually going on a short vacation next week. So the soap store will be closed for a couple of days just because we can't fulfill any orders in that time. But when we come back, next Saturday, we're debuting a lot of new soaps, including some really cool stuff for Pride Month. This is our Rainbow in the Dark bar. Which is nice and glittery and really gorgeous. Yeah, I really like this one a lot. These are designed by my wife and partner, Michelle. And then this is an interesting experiment we've got here. We call this bisexual chaos. And this was originally supposed to be like a 3-tiered soap, but what ended up happening was we used a different kind of salt than we normally do, and it ended up becoming a very different texture, which is really weird and exciting, and it looks really cool, and it's still a wonderful soap. So that's cool. And then I'm actually debuting a bar that I created myself. This is all me. And this is an Italian kitchen bar. Ooh. And what I have done here is I have made a soap with an olive oil base instead of like goat's milk or glycerin.
Ooh, okay.
And what I've done is I've put in there's a little bit of citrus in here, but it's mostly in addition to that there is black sea salt and also black dried garlic. Ooh. And the idea here is most soaps tend to be put in the bathroom. And you want them smelling nice and sweet. But I'm like, what about a soap you keep in the kitchen? Wouldn't you want your kitchen to smell appetizing? Yeah. So this is an appetizer bar. So I use it a lot. They're wonderful, and when I'm done with it, I'm always just like, I'm gonna get myself a snack. So those are all debuting next Saturday. But until then, we have a bit of a sale until tomorrow, and then the store is going offline for a couple of days.
Nice, I love it.
So how did you get into soap? It's just when people get into it always fascinates me.
This is all getting into soap is all my M. Lapis da Silva. It's all my wife. It was during the pandemic, and we were watching a lot of YouTube videos to sort of like just help us relax. Mm-hmm. And what we found, we fell into the world of soap making, and there's a lot of soap making videos on YouTube, and it's very pleasing in this sort of OCD kind of way to see colors come together and then get chopped very finely into nice shapes. And as we kept watching these, and we realized we're still watching this, it's been like a month, and then we realized that like this is the sort of thing that like it takes a bit of an initial investment, but it can be done at home. We don't need like a big factory or studio. We just have to do it right. And so we started researching it, and this was like back in September, and then we started making some soap, and we made a few gift sets for friends and family, and then by January we were like, we got this. And so Michelle is the absolute like wizard in the kitchen. She's the person who really knows what she's doing, and almost all the soap designs are hers, but I'm pretty proud of the couple that I've put on there. And we got new designs every month now. It's just been really, really great. And thanks in large part, I got to admit, in large part to Schmoedown fans who have been very interested and very accepting of sort of new weird stuff. We've done better sales than most people said we would. Like everyone's like, oh, your first year, no one's going to buy anything. But no, people are buying stuff, and we're doing okay. And the reviews have been really nice, and it just means a lot to us.
That's awesome.
Yeah, what a wonderful community we're part of. It's really great.
Mm-hmm. It's such a weird thing, like that. This community of people that come together for a movie trivia show on YouTube, I don't even like. It's a weird. I don't know. These people I never would have met that I've now met and know, and from all over the world, and it's just. I guess thank Mark and Christian for this, because it's. I don't know where I'd be without it.
Same.
But it's funny you mentioned it, because I love watching YouTube videos of people making things or doing things, but I also hate them because they make it seem so easy.
And then you try it and you can't do it.
And it's like, oh, that looks so easy. I'll do that. And then I try to make soap, and I'm like, this is not what happened when they did it. Like,
first, you gotta. It's interesting because like I'm in my late 30s. You know, it's a brand new art form and a brand new skill that has been brought into my life. And as Michelle takes these things so much quicker than I. She's a real Renaissance person. But you know, for me, I the things that I'm good at, I've been good at largely for a long time, and I've kind of focused on my strengths. And when I try something new and a failure comes across, like, oh, I tried this and it just didn't come out right at all. It's so easy for me to just like go, damn it, I will forget everything. I'm over this. I'm going to go watch the movie. Like, it's so easy for me to do that. But Michelle has this incredible creative work ethic where it's every single thing you do leads to something amazing down the line. And you just gotta be willing to accept that, like, you're trying something brand spanking new. You've never done it before. The odds of you nailing it the first time are really, 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 really low, and the odds of you doing it consistently, even if you do nail it the first time, are really, really low. So, like, you really have to just accept that you're not going to get it right the first time, and you have to be okay with that. It's like, it's not about, oh, I did badly. It's, I didn't do great yet. It's down the path. Right. So we're going to get there, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the just get better with every opportunity or everything you do. Yeah.
Sounds like my Schmoedown career.
Hey, I made the mistake of peaking early, man. I had a great match, and then the first time I failed, everyone was like, and we don't care about bibs anymore. And I'm like, oh my God. It was a rough second season, man. I got to tell you.
I will say, as much as I love this community, there are certain things that I'm just like, it's a little ridiculous. And the recency bias of
it's very fickle. It's very fickle.
Unless you're the Patriots. If you're the Patriots, everyone's like, yeah, they're still the greatest. And I'm like, really?
Yeah, I saw a lot of comments, people thinking JTE was going to come back and be Jeff's partner. And like,
no, it's time to move on. It's the Jeannine era now. It's Jeannine TE.
It is the era of the machine.
Yeah, it's not JTE, it's JTM. JTM showed up today.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you.
I think that's just JTE crossed out with JTM. Oh, but yeah, I mean, do you guys feel, how much pressure comes from the community for you guys? Is there any? Is it?
Yeah.
I mean, pressure. Now, for me, like now after these two matches, definitely it's huge pressure. And I'm not like resting on these two strong matches. I'm definitely putting in the work to always get better and, keep up this momentum. But yeah, I think definitely you want to put on a great show for the fans. You want to play well. So yeah, like I mentioned, Mike, he seems like he does play a lot to what he thinks the fans are going to say about him. I don't like to really get into that mindset, but sometimes I do let things that the fandom say get to me. But being with the Stars, like, it's been way better for me to really get out of my head with those things and, really focusing on pleasing the fandom, because you're not going to please everybody, and just, do what I know I can do and answer the questions that I know. So yeah, it's always tough to kind of separate the fandom from what you can do and your self-confidence and worth in this game. So it's really always something you kind of have to work through for me personally.
No, and I've really gone up and down on it, where like I've had like really good seasons in various tournaments, and everyone's like, "Hey, Bibbs is on a roll, good for Bibbs," and I'm like, "Cool." And then you lose one match, and it's always, "What has he done for us lately?"
Yeah,
and that part stinks. It's so easy to like forget, and I've seen it happen with a lot of players, where like they'll do amazing things, they'll have a couple of rough matches or a couple of great matches, but just they're playing an equally great opponent and they happen to win, and then all of a sudden they're just yesterday's news. Yeah. And that always bums me out. And I'm a person, I'm susceptible to having my feelings hurt like anybody else, but what I try to remember is you're doing this, I think, for a variety of reasons, but typically for me it boils down to one of three. Are you doing this for the fans? Maybe. That's what we're here to entertain. Mm-hmm. Are you doing this for yourself? Probably, it wouldn't be worth it otherwise. You really want to get out there and compete. But for me, what it boils down to is what I'm actually doing this for is the movies.
Mm-hmm.
I love movies. My favorite thing about this show is that we get to celebrate movies all the time. And I think if you start forgetting that or divorcing yourself from it and make it entirely about the competition, it's still fun, but I think
it's going to hurt your game a little bit. I think it's going
to hurt your game. I think you're going to be focused not on the right thing. And again, I think one of my favorite things in the world is when you're playing a Schmoedown match and you get a question that about a question nobody else has heard of, and everyone's like, "I need to watch that movie," and I'm like, "Yes."
Yes, when me and Jacoby got that 5-pointer about Brown Sugar, this black rom-com with Taye Diggs and Sanaa Lathan, I was like, I love this movie, black rom-coms. Yes, I know it. Most Def, hell yes. So I was so excited that I got a question about this movie that probably nobody knows about.
I hope that some people check out
about things like that.
I've heard some people actually say, after the matches, wait a minute, is Frank Capra an actor? What is oh,
what?
Oh no. Okay, so here's the deal. We need to talk about Frank Capra because I've seen almost every movie that they talked about, and they're all amazing. I was so glad you got an American Madness question. I love that.
Yes. I was like, it's American something. I can't quite remember.
You were there.
Yeah, so I was in the mindset, but I was like, I need to just be 100% sure.
If anyone
has American something, and I had to check. Yeah.
If anyone watching this hasn't seen American Madness, it's an early Frank Capra movie. That's the run on the bank scene from It's a Wonderful Life. But if that was the whole movie, it's nonstop.
Oh wow!
It's nonstop energy. It's so great. I love that movie so much.
The Schmoedown has changed the way that I like, because I was never really into movies before the Schmoedown. I got into the Schmoedown because of trivia. I used to host bar trivia, and I was trying to find movie trivia to ask for bar trivia, and that's when next thing I knew, I'd seen 9 Schmoedown matches in a row, and I was like, "Where am I? What am I doing here?
What is this?"
But I never heard. The only thing I knew about Frank Capra before the Schmoedown was there's a line in The American President where she talks about the Capra-esque quality of it, and I had to Google it, and that's when I found out who Frank Capra was, and I didn't know. But one thing that's changed for me now that I watch movies is because I watch movies and I say, that would be a good Schmoedown question.
I do that all the time too.
Yeah, I do that a lot.
Yeah.
It's actually it's a little annoying because sometimes I'm trying to be really immersed into the movie, but then it usually comes up.
Yeah,
I've actually.
You watch movies completely different now.
Well, what I've found is that, if you play enough Schmoedown, you watch enough Schmoedown, you do get a sense of what is likely to come up, what sort of plot elements, what sort of acting, what sort of bits of trivia, and Jeannine was talking about it. We train behind the scenes. I'm sure every good faction does.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing's more satisfying to me than helping someone train for a match, writing questions for them, and then the question I wrote ends up in their round 2, and I'm like, yes,
so great.
It's so exciting because I know they know it, and I know that I'm on the right wavelength. I'm thinking the right way.
Yeah.
Right. I think for me, that's the movies that I've seen the most is when I get the most this is a Schmoedown question. That would be a Schmoedown question. Oh, wait, this person is in that movie? Oh, yeah, they're definitely going to ask about that. And, another funny thing for me is because I used to listen to Ben and Drew's. They used to do the podcast about Action Movie Anatomy, and they would talk about movies that I'd never seen the movie, sometimes never even heard of the movie, still haven't seen the movie, and then it would turn out it would be a Schmoedown question, and I would only get it right because you
watched that.
The worst was the 3 or 4 times where I got the question right because of their podcast, and they missed the question.
Oh,
oh no!
Which I only know because of your podcast.
I'm in this weird situation where I've been writing and doing stuff about movies for so long that occasionally I'll talk to a fellow competitor and they were talking about studying for a category, and they said that one of the things I read or one of the things that I watched to study for a category was something I did. I did this web series or I did this article or whatever, and they were just and that's what I read to study up on the category. And I'm I don't even remember making that.
You're outside content sometimes informs what you do. Like
Yeah.
on my Patreon with my co-hosts, like we have a perk where they can pick whatever movie they want, and we'll do like a bonus podcast talking about whatever movie they chose.
Yeah.
And one of the patrons chose Catch Me If You Can. And so I just had watched that recently so that we could do that bonus episode for them. And then I got a Catch Me If You Can question in that next match that I played. And I'm like, thank you, patron, for that pick, because I don't think I would have remembered that otherwise.
Oh, there's so many like little Schmoedown stories like that for competitors. Like Kalinowski told the story that he literally right before the match started with Smets, he studied Jerry Goldsmith's IG or Star Trek, all the Star Trek he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was
That
his
came up.
question to win the match, and it's like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
or the times where somebody stopped at one page, and then that was the page they got asked about, and they didn't. If they'd only read that.
I remember
Yeah.
sometimes it works the other way though, and it's really annoying. I remember there was this one match back during the Anarchy tournament where I was paired up with Matt Nost, who was really fun, really good competitor. But it was the match we lost, and I think it was against Who's the Boss. And we were, it's round 3, and we divvy up the question. So he gets the 2, I get the 3. And I get the 2, and I'm like, I knew it, great. And then he got the 3, and it was something I was literally talking about just before the match. And I'll always remember it. It was the question was, what was Cher's last name in Clueless? And I was literally talking to somebody about how her name was Cher Horowitz, like 5 minutes before the match started, and Matt wasn't there. And I'm like, if only he had been there, or if only we questions. And then it's so annoying because I knew that. And like, what are you gonna do?
Schmoedown.
Yep.
It's the worst.
Jeannine, I do have to say, I was screaming at the screen for the Point Break question. I was absolutely.
I don't know what
screaming.
happened. Like, I literally just heard Bodie, and then that put Brody in my head, and then I couldn't get Jaws out of my head. So I was like, should I use a repeat? Am I gonna go back and get there? Like, I don't know if I am. So I'll just take the hit. Yeah.
I was mostly disappointed that Jeff didn't know next Friday.
Yeah.
That one hurt me.
Yeah.
I was like, dude.
Yeah.
Dude.
I love next Friday.
Dude.
Of all the ones to answer, Friday After Next is the worst movie.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And I'm sure there would have been some context clues in that question about Christmas. It takes place at Christmas time or something.
That's the thing about it. It's weird. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. For a second, I thought they were asking. It wasn't until they said sequel. For a second, I thought they were asking about All About the Benjamins. Because that was the other Ice Cube, Mike Epps movie that came out around that same time. Yeah. Which I think is an underrated film.
It is.
It's okay. Yeah, it's pretty good. So for a second, I thought they were going there, but I was like, that's kind of obscure. It's probably not around 1. Yeah. That kind of deal. So yeah.
I mean,
it's one of 2 Ice Cube movies about a missing lottery ticket, like a winning lottery ticket that ends up becoming this big centerpiece of the plot. It's All About the Benjamins, and then the very cleverly titled Lottery Ticket.
Yeah, that's the one with what's his name?
Is it Nick Cannon in that one, or is it Little Bow Wow?
No,
it's Nick Cannon.
Hi.
It's not Nick Cannon. It's what is his name? He rapped with Snoop Dogg.
You're live on the internet right now.
Hello.
This is my niece Lily.
Hello.
Everyone says hi to you.
Jake got it. Little Bow Wow. That's who it is.
It was. Well, I think it was just Bow Wow at that time. He was respectable. He needed respectability, so he dropped Lil, and he's just Bow Wow now.
Right.
And this is her twin brother, MJ. Say hi. You're famous, guys.
Making their call to action debut.
Right.
We've all got friends.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, it was. So now Shazam will face corruption. So once again, I do think it's funny that we got Chance going perfect in that match against them, and it was very impressive And then it's almost like you guys were like, "Oh, you went perfect. Oh, hold our beer," and we both go perfect.
Well, that's going to be such a tough match. It was a tough match the first time.
Yeah,
it's going to be a tough match the second time. I think we can do it. I think if we proved anything with the last match, is that we're capable of a perfect game, which means that there's really no one we can't beat because no other team's done it. So again, we're going to study their kids here. We're going to study our hinders off.
I can't hear you. It's fine.
Okay, we're going to study our hinders off.
You guys went perfect. You guys can do it again.
I think we can. We probably won't. It took us this long to do it, but I don't like being self-aggrandizing. I don't. I actually talked to my therapist about it. I actively have like self-esteem problems that are really, really debilitating to me. But I'm really proud of what we've done with Shazam. I think we're a really, really strong team, and so I think that there is no one at the Schmoedown that we can't, at least on a good day, take. And I know we've taken corruption before. I know that they're going to really, really bring it. The situation's different now. Last season, you couldn't put literally any Inner Geekdom category on the wheel.
No.
So they're in a much stronger position to load that wheel up with categories that they're comfortable with. However, and I think this is something that people need to remember, it's been about half a year since we've been having Inner Geekdom categories available on the wheel. You better believe we've been studying.
Yes,
and I've been helping our faction mates study in Star Wars Inner Geekdom. I've been writing questions on categories all the time. We're ready, so we're as ready as we can be. We know what we know. We're gonna keep studying. We're gonna maybe we can try to find some way to keep surprising people. Wouldn't that be fun? So
yes. Well, everybody knows my history with corruption, so I'm definitely in your corner.
Thank you. It's good to hear. Yeah. And a part of me was like, I remember when you were confirmed as Jeff's partner, and I thought to myself, man, if there's anyone we'd rather lose to, there's no one we'd rather lose to than Jeannine. And because I was thinking about they're great, and it'd be great to see her and Jeff go up against. At the time, we didn't know who was going to be Danger Zone or Corruption, but either one of those teams would have been awesome. And I would have been so rooting for you. I really would have. So, and I still am. So I can't wait to see what you do. And I hope we get to see you in a teams tournament again, hopefully before the end of the year. And who knows, maybe we'll meet up at Spectacular. Wouldn't that be great?
Wow. Spectacular.
Wouldn't that be great?
That feels like another one of those Schmoedown storylines that always seem to
come back around somehow. They always do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things, especially when you're at the highest levels of the Schmoedown, you keep seeing the same people over and over again because they are the equally good. That's what makes it so tough, because yes, you guys are capable of having a perfect game or a near perfect game, but so are they, and that's always a rough thing.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things going into a new season, because at the start of a new season, there's always an influx of rookies, and you never know who's going to become really top shelf player. Who's going to reveal that they really can hang with the Dan Murrells and the Adam Collinses and the Mike Kalinowskis and IG. And so it's really exciting. And I know some people just have rotten luck the first match or two, and they get to prove themselves later. It's not until the second half of the year that you really start to see who's really got the goods. And we're starting to see that sort of coalesce a bit, and it's going to be I'm really looking forward to this tournament season. I love that so many of the old school players are still at the top of their game, but I also hope that when it comes down to it, we get to see people like Jacoby. We get to see people like Josh Horowitz. We get to see people who are new faces and can hopefully change the league. It happened with Marisol. It happened with Collins. It happened with Smets. It happened with a lot of cool people. So, yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's been a season of new people coming in and making crazy debuts. I mean, the Star Wars division is just littered with them.
Stacked.
I can't even keep track of them anymore.
I thought I liked Star Wars until I saw the Schmoedown of the Star Wars division.
I know you hate Star Wars.
I really like it that much. It's not
there's this active plan to really make tough questions, because they're running the gamut of everything they can ask.
Yeah, it's so hard to
be a Star Wars fan.
It's so hard to help Star Wars players train. You really do. Because I've come to this weird realization where I'll be helping write questions for Eric Whiteley or Andrew De Milanta, and Like I'll be like writing like the hardest questions I can think of, and when I give them the questions, it runs the range of like two things: either that is the easiest question in the world,
Yes,
or what the hell are you talking about?
exactly. I run into the same thing with Alex when I try to help him study.
Yeah.
Like I'm so out of my realm with that.
But I think it's good though, because you got to remember, when you think you know everything about something, you have to try to throw a wrench in there so that they're ready when they're
prepared for that.
Yeah, you got to be ready when you don't know something. That's one of the hardest things. It's easy to win a Schmoedown if you happen to know every answer.
Yeah.
If you don't, then you got your work cut out for you, and then you got to make sure you're not getting all in your head. You got to make sure you're your way out of it, and we've all done that. And it's hard.
Yeah.
I do like the dichotomy of the factions and how it's kind of changed the way, like you guys are talking about studying with your partners and with your teammates and all that. And I think before the factions, that never you probably studied with like people that you liked or people that you knew, but it wasn't like this person's on my team, I need to help them prepare for this match or whatever. How has factions changed maybe the way you study or the way that you approach the game?
I mean, I didn't used to have to study Star Wars or Inner Geekdom. Like I knew it would occasionally come up, and I know a lot about Star Wars, but I know like singles and teams division Star Wars. Like I could handle a Star Wars category in singles and teams, but the level I remember watching Inner Geekdom matches. I remember watching that first pay-per-view match with Rachel and Kalinowski when it all came down to sudden death and one letter. And I remember thinking to myself, how the hell do you know all this? Like, even I know a lot of stuff. I don't know how do you love, I'm actually amazed. I don't know how you can love a small number of movies so much that you'll dedicate your life to knowing literally everything about them. That's why I can't do it. I love those movies, but like, I can't not watch other movies.
Yeah.
I can't dedicate myself to that. So that's something that's really, really special. And it's really cool to feed off of that energy, their incredible enthusiasm for Inner Geekdom and Star Wars. All of that's really, really great. And I get a hit off of that every time I help like Jesse Swift study, or every time I help Eric Whaley study. And that part's really, 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 really great. And it's really good. I think I've talked to some of those competitors, and it's like, it's good to hear like what a singles and teams competitor thinks of as a question, because sometimes it's not what they're thinking of. And it's also really, really good for me to go insanely deep dive on their movies, because sometimes that's a great way to study too, is to like not just focus on the obvious. You got to make sure you know that. Did you know that the worm, the giant worm in the asteroid in Empire Strikes Back, has a name? I mean, a species, a name. Holy crap! Why? Why did you do that? That was not necessary for you to do that. But it's incredible to know. So,
yeah. Like for me, like Roxy kind of, she talked to all of us after she drafted us and like had these one-on-one conversations. And she asked me like what my goals were. And one of my hugest goals was like, I want to be an asset to my faction, not just to get points for the faction myself. I want to help my faction study and prepare and be at their best if I can. And like I totally fell in love with Inner Geekdom after seeing how Rachel played and Kevin coming into the game and getting Brandon into Inner Geekdom and all of that stuff, and getting him into the Schmoedown. So I was always kind of helping them, and so I just fell in love with Inner Geekdom in general. And then me going into Inner Geekdom last season to help out the suspects, like it's been really just fun trying to help out my faction that way and kind of stretch my mind in that way. And it's also kind of just helpful for me in general studying, because now that you can put those slices on the wheel, I think it helps your own knowledge as a singles and a teams competitor as well. So it's been great.
So are we going to see you come back to the IG division anytime soon, or are you really focused on singles and teams right now?
Well, since I didn't really get to do teams last season like I wanted to, I'm really kind of putting a lot of focus into that and singles. So, I think Inner Geekdom is definitely something I want to get back into at some point. But yeah, definitely I think this season is going to be mostly teams and singles.
Nice. Cool. I will not be joining the Star Wars division anytime soon. I don't know who started that rumor. I know I had a Star Wars podcast for a while. I will not be joining the Star Wars division anytime
What
soon.
if we gave you 60 days? If we gave you
No.
60 days,
You need to give me 60. No, here's the thing with that. I've heard that. That's such a fun soundbite. You need 60 days and time.
yes.
Like, you give me 60 days, and I'm like, great. Where am I going to find the time? I have multiple jobs. I have family. I have my own pursuits. I'm still working in singles and teams. I'm the captain of my faction, so like I have responsibilities there. Like, I don't have the time to in those. Even if you gave me 60 days to study that. Also, I don't think I'd want to disrespect the division by just trying to like cram, and there's something kind of rude about it to me, with the idea that like, oh, your division is nothing. If I crammed really, really hard, I could win. And I'm like, well, then why would you want to break the division like that?
Yeah,
like, even if you could succeed, why would you want to break it like that? It's such a weird thing to do. I'm not sure what that would help. But in any case, I mean, it just boils down to this. People really like Star Wars, man.
They do.
They really, really like Star Wars. I don't know. Like, I like Star Wars fine, but I don't know. Seems like there are other movies, man. Maybe you can watch some of those other movies too. Watch some other movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we should have a Spaceballs category next time. Let's see how that works.
Oh, what a classic! Oh,
yeah.
Man.
That'd be great if there was like a Star Wars knockoff category as well. So you're just watching stuff like Star Crash and the Ice Pirates, and that would be good.
Ice Pirates, yes.
I love the Ice Pirates. That is so fun.
I love all those like low budget, like bad, so bad they're good 80s sci-fi. No, I like Ice Pirates. I think Ice Pirates is actually like a really good movie. But even
it's
like
a silly film, it's fun. Yeah,
the campy, catchy, like just. It's like bad, like things happen and you're like, you didn't edit that out. Oh, I guess you maybe you didn't have an editor. Like,
they're fun. They're really, really fun. I remember I got to interview. I was very honored. I got to interview Joel Hodgson for when MST3K came back to Netflix, and one of the films that they did was Star Crash, which is a Star Wars knockoff without shame, and it's got Christopher Plummer and David Hasselhoff and Marjo Gortner, and I'm actually fond of that movie. I actually like that movie, and I was just like, I actually like Star Crash, and he was like, no, you don't. You don't actually like Star Crash. No one. He's like, I watched that movie so many times in this show. It's not that good. I'm like, I like it. Anyway, Jeannine, we lost you and we missed you the whole time.
Oh, that's okay. I had bathroom break.
That's okay.
Yeah, you're allowed to have those. Yeah, it's not like the old studio.
Right.
Oh, but yeah. So I think we're gonna wrap it up here. At this point, we'd like to thank you all once again for coming on. Jeannine, always a pleasure to see you. Mr. William Bibbiani, the soap mogul of the Schmoedown.
We got soaps. Don't forget, we got. If you go to Etsy, go to Etsy right now. There's some people put links in the comments, and I'm very grateful for that. If you can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at SaltCatSoap. But yeah, we have an Etsy store. Look for SaltCat Soap, all one word. And we got some really nice soaps up there. There is a sale going on through May 31st on some of our nicer items, including our Father's Day gift sets, which have our Monty Python themed soaps. And then, again, Tuesday through Friday we'll be offline. But then we are coming back on Saturday with a whole new lineup of soaps. In addition to our old content, we're going to have the Bisexual Chaos jar of awesome soap, which I hope you can see. Yeah, look how pretty that is. We've got these Rainbow in the Dark bars, which is also for Pride Month. We've got my garlic kitchen bars, which I don't know if they don't really photograph very well, unfortunately. But and we got other cool stuff besides that's going to be debuting. That's just a small taste of some of the new stuff we're going to have. We have a new lotion that we're debuting as well. So that's all going to be on Saturday. But stores open now. Stores open on May 31st. Check it out. And of course, come check me out on the Critically Acclaimed Network. We have a lot of shows about various movies and TV things, and we have a Patreon, patreon.com/critically acclaimed network.
Awesome. Jeannine, where can we find you?
You can find me at Jeannine Devine _ on Twitter, Jeannine Devine on Instagram. Please check out the It's a Wonderful podcast feed. We have 3 shows over there. We have Machine Mondays every Monday where I talk Schmoedown. I have a very special guest, Roxy Stryer, talking these 2 matches with her tomorrow. So check that out. Every Wednesday we have Morgan Hasn't Seen, where I force Morgan to watch movies he hasn't seen. Right now we are talking dark teen comedy. So we'll be talking Heathers on Wednesday. And Friday we have It's a Wonderful podcast where we talk classic films. We'll be talking Cabin in the Sky, all-black musical this Friday. So check that out. It's a Wonderful podcast feed. All places podcasts are found. We also have the It's a Wonderful podcast Patreon. It's a Wonderful One on patreon.com. We have some really fun tiers, fun Sunday live streams, monthly artwork, all kinds of fun stuff. So please check it out.
Yeah. Kelsey, where can people find you?
All right, you can find me at KelseyKins90 on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me here on Call to Action Live about every other week. So always excited to talk some Schmoedown with everybody. Starting next Wednesday, I will be on 2 different Loki shows. So look forward to that. I'll be on the Schmo Me the Money review show as well as Cinefanatics. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be on every week.
I hope it's good.
I'm so excited.
Can you imagine if the show is just terrible and you've committed to I really hope it's good?
Oh, I am committed to this show. I've been very excited about it. I mean, the only tattoo I have really is a Loki tattoo.
Oh wow!
Love Loki. So I'm excited.
Tom Hiddleston reading the Yellow Pages, and she would be like, "This is amazing."
I literally have a life-size version of this in my living room. So it's,
oh my gosh!
Nice. He's my roommate.
Nice.
Everyone who doesn't know, Morgan Hasn't Seen is fantastic because if you don't know, Morgan is from Great Britain, so he has when he watches old American films that are nostalgic for us, that have a lot of
American. Him watching Independence Day for the first time was pretty hilarious. He's like, I don't get your patriotism. This is so weird. What is happening? Yay America, and then the just really sad portrayal of British people, by Jove, the Americans figured this out. He was just cringing.
And I also highly recommend from the critically acclaimed network. Is it Brilliant but Canceled? Is that what? Or Canceled Too Soon?
Canceled Too Soon. Canceled Too Soon is our podcast where we review TV shows that lasted 1 season or less. We just did a great one about the forgotten failed pilot for Disney called Fluffy Dogs. And it was one of their first attempts at an animated series in the 80s. Came out around the same time as Gummy Bears. And it was about basically, do you ever see Sliders or Time Bandits? It's like that, but with adorable dogs.
Oh, okay.
And it's actually surprisingly well animated. It was actually unusually good. So that was a cool discovery. And then coming up next, we have the absolutely horrifying, my God, how did you even let this on the air? Lancelot Link Secret Chimp, which is a James Bond parody where all of the characters are chimpanzees wearing human clothes. And it's awful. It's just awful. Do not do what I do at home, folks. It is not for you. It is. I suffer for you. You don't have to do this. This is a crucible. Okay, it's not cool. So that will come up. That'll probably be a week after next because I'm going out of town.
Yeah, it's great. I love it so much. You all can find me on Twitter at Mr. Billy Belford. You can find me here every Sunday now on Call to Action Live. We'll be back next Sunday once again. And you can find all the shows here at Call to Action. Chill to Action returns soon, I think.
I hope so.
But yeah. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Thank you, Mr. William Bibbiani, Jeannine the Machine. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
And we will see you all next Sunday.